For spine-chilling true fishing horrors, unexplained terrors exposed from haunted waters, the sun dipped below the horizon as Lisa steered her battered pickup toward the lake, swirling fog creeping in. Heart racing, a creeping chill clawed at her throat. Just stories, she told herself. But the talk was everywhere, fishermen disappearing without a trace, whispers bouncing off diner walls like ominous echoes. It was a tainted place now, haunted. A shiver ran through Lisa. She couldn't let Jake know about the fears that shadowed her thoughts. As they cast their line into the murky water, chilling legends slithered into her mind. A boy who lived in the depths beckoning. Why did her heart drop at the thought? Jake's innocent laughter rang through the air, yet it felt dissonant against the backdrop of impending doom. Lisa wrapped her arms around him, desperate for both warmth and protection. Then came Tom, the town's beloved fisherman, with that knowing smile that held back a million tales. You didn't hear it from me, but his voice dropped to a whisper, and an air of foreboding settled like the heavy mist over the water. This lake has seen darkness, a past of violence that most folks choose to forget. A cold sweat ran down her back. Be careful. Suddenly, Jake tugged her sleeve, wide-eyed. Mom! There's a boy swimming. His eyes sparkled, innocent and alarming at the same time. He's got a sad smile. Every instinct in Lisa screamed. She forced a smile, swallowing her heart with dread. Just make sure our fishing buddy stays on shore, okay? They spent that night surrounded by the flames of the campfire, but the warmth never quite reached her heart. The laughter felt wrong, hollow. Shadows twisted in the flickering glow, and her mind replayed Tom's warning. A paranoia simmered, like a pot ready to boil over, and she squeezed Jake's little hand tighter. Then came the noises. It was just after midnight, the tranquility shattered by a shriek that seemed to claw its way out of the water. The sound was unnatural, echoing with terror, as if the lake itself was appetizingly hungry. We should go, Lisa whispered, panic curling in her gut. Each rustle of the reeds felt like a beckoning finger, urging them deeper into chaos. Before they could react, a figure emerged from the depths, blurred shapes writhing beneath the surface. Lisa's blood ran cold. The water swallowed their laughter, and shadows loomed in the periphery of her vision. Mom! Jake clutched her tightly, breath shaky. We need to leave, Jake. As they began to paddle back to shore, darkness enveloped them. The last glimmer of safety vanished, replaced by a sharp gasp as Tom's words echoed. A betrayal whispered through her mind. Had they been playing beside danger all this time? The ominous glow of the ranger's flashlight cut through the night, revealing shapes just below the waterline, drawing nearer. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Panic clawed at her throat, and the water rippled ominously. Shadows chased them, the lake's murmur growing louder, beckoning with the promise of secrets too dark to unveil. Suddenly, she saw a fleeting glimpse of the submerged friend, reaching for Jake. Her heart thundered. No! She couldn't lose her son to the hungry depths of this cursed lake. With nowhere to run, Lisa knew the only way to save Jake was to face the darkness that loomed just beneath their surface. The boat rocked violently, dollar bills of the rippling water clawing at their sides as the unseen entities surged closer. Lisa leaned over, her breath coming in quick, shallow bursts. Keep your head down, Jake. Her voice was strained, as if each word was a fragile thread connecting them to safety. She could feel the cold undercurrents tugging at the boat, a primal instinct telling her to abandon the vessel and swim for shore, but the water looked like black velvet, swallowing anything that dared to plunge into its depths. Shadows morphed into menacing figures beneath the surface, and her mind spiraled into an abyss of terror. The lake was awake. "Mom!" Jake whimpered, his small voice breaking through her haze of fear. "I don't want to go back. The boy wants to play." "No!" Lisa snapped, panic tightening her grip on the paddle. "You don't understand, Jake. He isn't your friend." There was a glimmer of movement to her right, and she twisted her head to look just in time to see the watery form slip beneath the surface, leaving behind only a ripple that echoed unnervingly. And then, it happened. The boat lurched violently, the startling shift tipping them toward the lake. Lisa's heart thudded against her ribcage. She felt the water swirling around her ankles, a cold caress that cut through the air like a knife. The figures beneath were becoming more definite, more real, clawing to reach them, hungry and alive. "Hold on!" she shouted, and she began to paddle with every ounce of strength she had left. Shouts pierced the night, drifting from the shore. "Hey! Over here!" A flashlight stuttered through the fog, and hope clawed at Lisa's heart. Maybe there was a chance, maybe they could, but the hopes shattered with a thundering splash. The water exploded around them. A gnarled hand shot up from the depths, breaking the surface like a serpent retrieving its prey. Lisa screamed, her instincts arming her, clutching Jake to her chest as she swung the paddle toward whatever horror was reaching for them. The dull thud of wood against bone echoed in the night, a sickening sound that made her stomach churn. "Mom!" Jake shrieked, terror lighting up his eyes. "Keep your eyes closed," she ordered, her heart racing even faster. She focused on the glow of the flashlight at the shore, desperately pleading with whatever deity might listen for deliverance. The water frothing around them grew more violent. The shadows pulsed with a new ferocity, drawing closer. The whispers rose, reverberating in Lisa's mind like an incantation, urging her to surrender, to embrace the depth, to let go. The boy with the sad smile surfaced in her memory, those innocent eyes now a haunting reminder of what awaited them. She fought harder, struck the water with renewed vigor. "Get back!" she yelled into the void, feeling the water lapping at the edges of her sanity. But Jake, in a fleeting moment of innocence, called into the dark water, "But Mom, he just wants to play." Lisa's heart plummeted. No, they couldn't allow that. The forgotten tales spoke of devouring fiends, children lost to the shadows. "Jake!" she screamed, panic blaring in her voice. Before she could react, a pull tugged both of them toward the dark embrace below. "Don't let go!" she cried, wrapping Jake tighter in her arms. The flashlight on the shore flickered, almost extinguished under the heavy mist that wrapped around them like a shroud. She shivered, the sensation of cold fingers brushing against her skin turning her blood to ice. Shadows lifted around her, revealing faces steeped in sorrow and longing. "Join us," they whispered, their voices rising to a chilling crescendo. The droplets of water enveloped them as they lurched forward. Lisa's final scream pierced the night, echoing in the air like a warning bell, "Jake!" And then, darkness swallowed them whole. Who would answer a cry like that? What rescue could possibly come from the abyss? Here, in this haunted expanse, they prepared to face the truth of the lake if they could survive the descent. Lisa gasped as the darkness embraced them, an unyielding blanket that smothered all sound, all light. The cold stung her skin, creeping down her spine like 1,000 tiny ice picks. In that suffocating void, time seemed to stretch into eternity. The pull of the water was relentless, tugging at her limbs with a fierce urgency, as if the depths wanted to swallow them whole. "Jake!" she shouted, the name tearing from her throat, almost a desperate prayer. The silence that followed felt grotesque, deafening. She had no ground beneath her feet, and the water enveloped them, circling tighter and tighter. She squeezed Jake tighter against her, feeling his small heart race against her chest, matching her own frantic pulse. There was no telling how deep they had gone, and fear gnawed at her thoughts, threatening to consume her. Suddenly, a light pierced through the dark, flickering like a dying ember. It danced just ahead, teasing her with a thin thread of hope. Lisa kicked her legs, trying to push them toward the distant glow, but the shadows churned around them, reaching out with long, forlorn fingers. The faces from her memory twisted beneath the surface, close enough to see, yet far enough to evade her grasp. "Join us," they whispered again, their voices like brittle leaves crunching underfoot. Each syllable sank deep into her bones, a haunting melody that clawed at her sanity. "Jake!" she cried again, the fear in her tone sharper than a knife. Her eyes darted around the inky darkness, desperately searching for the warmth of her son. And there he was, just a few feet away, but the shadows pulsed with every heartbeat, wrapping their tendrils around him. Lisa pushed against the cold, the fear igniting her instincts as she screamed, "I'm coming." She used every ounce of strength left in her to propel herself toward him. "Mom!" Jake's voice trembled, dim yet clear, cutting through the murky waters like a beacon. In that moment, Lisa felt as if they were tethered by an invisible thread, stretching them thin but refusing to snap. She lunged forward, reaching blindly, her fingers grasping water as she finally made contact. "I've got you!" she cried, pulling him close, feeling the warmth radiate from his tiny body. But the shadows weren't done. They pressed in with crushing force, clutching at their ankles, whispering promises of eternal rest. "Let go, we'll save you." The voices merged into a cacophony, coaxing, pleading, and mocking all at once. Lisa felt the weight of their sorrow, and it ached deep within her chest. It would be so easy, so tempting to give in. "No!" she screamed, pushing through the chorus of despair. "We're not yours." The glow pulsed again, flickering like the heartbeat of hope, now closer. Lisa glanced toward it, knowing they had to fight their way back. With every ounce of will, she began to swim, kicking against the sticky grasp of the shadows, dragging Jake along. The weight of their presence felt like chains pulling her under, but she clawed her way upward, the light becoming brighter, a ghostly silhouette against the panic. "Just a little more," she called, her voice hoarse. She could almost taste the air above, crave it like a long-forgotten memory. Then, the water surged violently, hurling them into darkness once more, and Lisa felt herself slipping. Panic washed over her like an icy wave. She couldn't lose him. "Hold on, Jake!" she barked, grasping his hands tighter, trying to anchor them against the raw force dragging them backward. Just when her heart threatened to shatter, the light shattered the ambient darkness. It was a flashlight, already dimming, but it illuminated their terrified faces in that moment. "Over here!" a voice bellowed from the shore. But in that instant, a relentless force yanked them down, deeper into the dark clutches of the lake. Lisa kicked and screamed, fighting against the inevitable pull. "Emom!" Jake's scream pierced the murky water, echoing far and wide, causing the shadows to momentarily still. And then silence. The depths held their breath, waiting for something to break. What awaited them at the bottom of this haunted lake? Would the light at the shore be their salvation, or just another cruel trick of the inky depths? The darkness hugged them fiercely, an unforgiving grip that drained the warmth from their bodies. For a moment, the world outside felt infinitely distant, a memory barely formed in the depths of fear. Lisa felt every heartbeat echo in the water, a frantic dance of survival. Jake was still at her side, but that small comfort was quickly being smothered by the dread that loomed around them. "Stay close," she hissed, desperation leaking into her voice. They had fought through the void together, but now it felt as though a ravenous beast lurked just beyond the reach of her fears, waiting to strike. Then came the tugging again. It was worse this time, a sinister pull that slithered into her mind, as if the lake were alive and eager to claim them. Pity, she thought, curled like smoke around her heart. It whispered sweet nothings promising safety and peace. "Come to us," it beckoned softly. Fear gnawed at her resolve. "No!" she yelled into the abyss, but the shadows only laughed, their voices piercing through the tranquil silence like splintering glass. Was it the water? The air? Or just her own trembling spirit that echoed back? Another surge of the current. The water rippled with a wicked energy, dragging them back deeper into the cavernous belly of the lake. The glow above flickered one last time before diminishing. Lisa strained her eyes upward, desperate to see that flicker of light return. "Jake! Swim!" she urged, her voice trembling as if the words had weight themselves, heavy with the burden of their reality. He nodded, the fear pooling in his wide eyes, but he held on tighter to her. It meant everything, their connection was the only lifeline in this sea of terror. They kicked and flailed, but every motion felt futile, like running in place against a relentless tide. The shadows twisted around them, slithering like serpents, pulling at their limbs with an unholy strength. "Let go of us!" Lisa screamed, but it was no use. The water began to drown out her cries, swallowing her words whole. The shadows began to caress her skin, sapping her energy, whispering lies about letting the fear take over endless rest in the depths below. "Mom, I'm scared." Jake's voice quivered. It cut through her heart like a sharpened shard, and a surge of strength coursed through her. "Fight, Jake. Please, just hold on." But just as she felt a flicker of hope surge within her, the shadows plunged deeper, pulling them farther down. She could see the outlines of ghostly faces, shimmering just beyond the grasp of the water's surface, lost souls, taking refuge within the dark corners of that cursed lake. Lisa's blood ran cold. What were they? Why didn't they help? A sudden burst of determination surged through her. She focused on her son, on the warmth she could feel seep from him, anchoring her as they drifted further into the nightmarish depths. "Look for the light, Jake. We can reach it." But doubt flickered in the corners of her mind. Was it too late? "Mom," the way Jake's voice trembled sent another jolt of panic surging through her veins. "It's getting darker." With a primal scream, Lisa kicked harder, the force of her terror propelling them forward. "Swim!" she ordered, pushing against the shadows that clung to them like a second skin. They were not theirs to claim. The light a flicker. It cheered inside her even as darkness threatened to envelop them. She could feel it. She could taste it. Another tug. A soul-sucking grip wrapped around her feet, dragging her down even further, but Lisa clawed at the water, over and over, believing against the rising tide. She felt an eerie calm wash over her, something powerful lurking just out of sight. "What's down there?" Jake whispered, trembling. In that moment, the shadows broke apart, revealing an unfathomable abyss, the lake's heart. A chilling realization struck her. "My God, Jake!" The shadows softened and grew darker, merging into the bottomless pit that appeared before them, and immense terror gripped her heart. Was this where it all ended? The lake's secrets were not merely haunting, it was alive, and it hungered for more. Just as her lungs screamed for air, a hand reached out from the darker depths, beckoning. Would this hand pull them under into a night never-ending, or was it a chance to escape the merciless grip of fear? Lisa's heart raced, and she felt the darkness closing in, a final embrace of despair as she prepared for what lay ahead. What awaited them in the yawning void? Would they discover salvation, or an unspeakable horror lurking below? The darkness swallowed them whole, but the suffocating silence shattered abruptly when Lisa reached for the outstretched hand. So cold, it felt like ice against her skin. A rush of panic surged through her, a tidal wave of uncertainty. "Jake! Hold on to me!" she shouted, her words desperate and raw. The hand pulled again, stronger this time. Was it trying to save them or just dragging them into the abyss? A haunting whisper curled around them, caressing their senses with a deceptive warmth. "It's safe here, let go." Join the others. "No." Lisa screamed, fighting the pull with every ounce of strength. Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the whispers that lapped at the edges of her sanity. She turned to Jake, entrusting him with her unwavering resolve. But when she glanced at him, the look in his eyes made her blood run cold, defeated, like he was already slipping away. "Mom," Jake's voice trembled, barely audible against the gurgling chaos of the water. "I don't want to battling. You have to fight." She kicked harder, lunging toward the hand, wanting to tackle the figures that surely waited in the depths. Shadows churned and coiled around them, weaving a net of despair that was almost palpable, like a thick mist smothering every flicker of light. There. A glimpse of white against the ink-black void, a new face, begging for rescue or perhaps offering damnation. Lisa's faith wavered. Those ghostly visages didn't belong in the world of the living. They were lost souls, lured here by the same darkness that gripped them now. "Don't look at them, Jake," she shouted, her throat raw. But Jake was entranced. His little hand broke away, reaching out toward one of the spectral faces floating eerily close, swimming in a circle of darkness. Lisa's heart plummeted, a fierce dread clawing at her insides. "Jake! No!" Her scream seemed to cut through the shadowy malice, snapping him out of his trance. He turned back, terror filling his eyes, and Lisa grabbed his shoulders, pulling him close. "We need to move. Now." They turned and kicked with all their might, the light above barely a pinprick flickering, failing. But the lake was loud. It roared with voices of the damned swirling around them, pressing against their flesh with icy fingers, seeking a way into their minds. "Mom, they're coming!" Jake shouted, wide-eyed. Lisa didn't need to look. She felt them, chilling tendrils tangled around her ankles, dragging her back. The pressure built against her chest, and she gasped for air, feet clawing desperately against the unseen force. "Fight it! Don't let them in!" The words spilled from her lips as if she were reciting a mantra, a desperate plea echoing in the depths of despair. They kicked and swam, but the dark figures shimmered closer, weaving tighter, mocking and whispering promises of peace. "Join us, it's easier." Lisa's breath hitched. She could almost believe them. The shadows promised an escape from the relentless struggle. "No, no, no, no," she sobbed, shaking her head. What if they were right? Each fragment of resistance felt like a weight dragging her to the bottom. And then, something shot through the depths, a flash of movement more powerful than the dreadful shadows. "Hold on, Jake." A whirlpool of water surged above. An arm broke through a sturdy hand. "Grab it." With one last heave, they lunged towards the bright hand, but the energy shifted. The ghosts recoiled, wailing with shrieks of desperation as they were pushed back, revealing a clear path upward. Heart pounding, Lisa took Jake's hand and they swam as fast as they could, racing through the water toward the rampant light. Hope surged, they were going to make it. But then the ground trembled beneath them, something vast and dark stirred in the depths, awakening from its slumber. The water roared as a monstrous shape emerged, a jagged outline towering against the flickering light, exuding an ancient hunger. "Mom, what is that?" Jake quivered beside her. And just then, the ancient thing drew closer, looming over them like a predator marking its prey. Lisa's heart sank as she realized with chilling clarity the true terror of the lake was only beginning to awaken. What lay beyond the last flicker of light? What horror awaited them at the surface? The massive shape moved with a power that sent shockwaves through the water. Lisa's heart raced as dread pooled in her stomach, coiling tighter with every passing second. Shadows lingered around its feet, like eager minions waiting for their orders. It was colossal, a nightmare made flesh, glistening and undulating like a leviathan rising to claim its next meal. "Swim!" she ordered, her voice a desperate cry above the chaos. She could barely think past the sheer terror, they had to escape this nightmare. But Jake hesitated, eyes wide, fixed on the terrifying form that loomed above. "Mom, it's so big, Jake. Focus. We have to go." She pulled him, kicking harder, the last vestige of hope clinging to the edges of her sanity. The light above pulsed again, a flickered promise, but the monstrous figure cast an ominous shadow that crawled over them, promising despair. With each stroke, Lisa felt the weight of the darkness suffocating her resolve. The words of the tortured souls echoed in her mind, coaxing and taunting. Join us, they would take him. It was all too easy to believe them, to sink into that inviting darkness, to give up. No, no, no. She gasped, pushing hard against the relentless tide. The surface seemed farther away, and the water churned with malevolent energy. Then came the sound, deep, rumbling laughter that vibrated through the water, chilling her to the bone. It was the voice of something ancient, filled with hunger and malice. You cannot escape, join your son. Lisa recoiled as if she'd been struck. The taunting echoed within her mind, threatening to unravel her. She turned back to Jake, finding him still staring, mesmerized by the creature and the darkness swirling around it. Jake! Swim! Jake clutched her hand tightly, but she felt him weaken. It was like a tether slowly unraveling, and the realization struck with the weight of a sledgehammer this thing was trying to break them apart. The water churned violently, and suddenly, a wave surged upward, propelling them toward the maw of the beast. The terrifying shape opened, collapsing into a whirlpool of darkness. Lisa's survival instinct kicked in, and she shouted, "We're not letting go. Fight!" But Jake was shrinking, his grip easing as the shadows pulled near. Desperation clawed at Lisa's throat. She could see it now. Jake's eyes, filled with fear, were searching hers. "Mom, I'm scared, I'm right here," she cried, but her voice was swept away by the cacophony of ghoulish wails. Time stretched unbearably as the darkness lunged closer, ghostly fingers ready to snatch him away. "You can't have him." Summoning every ounce of strength, she kicked harder, her muscles burning. The shadows clawed at her legs, desperate to drag her down. She felt a sharp pang in her ankle, the coldness wrapping around her, instilling icy dread. "Pull, Jake. We have to pull together." They surged upward, but just as the light broke above, a shadowy figure leapt from below, blocking their path. There was a flash of luminescence, and then everything went dark as the creature snapped shut its massive jaws around the last spark of hope. Lisa screamed, reaching for the surface, but the darkness enveloped them. In one chilling instant, equilibrium shattered. They were flung aside in the depths as tendrils wrapped tighter, squeezing until air was nothing but a memory. She felt Jake slip from her grasp, his cry echoing around her in the darkness. "Mom!" And then all fell silent. A surge of panic rose in her throat as fear crystallized into icy shock. "Jake!" Panic clawed at her as she grappled with the void, realizing the haunting truth: she could lose him completely. The shadows roared with delight, swirling around her, ushering her toward the eternal depths. In the abyss, Lisa sensed something else. There was more below, another presence, lurking just out of sight. Something watching, waiting. What was it? Some unknown terror hidden deep within the lake? The darkness shifted again, and Lisa's instincts screamed. Time was running out. In that last flicker of a heartbeat, hope evaporated, leaving behind only a paralyzing chill that wrapped itself tightly around her heart. She had to find Jake before whatever lurked below claimed them both. What awaited her in the depths? What secrets lay in the haunted waters, yearning to be uncovered? The heaviness of the water folded over Lisa like a shroud, suffocating her lungs. The pressure built around her, pushing in from all sides, as if the lake sought to claim her. "Jake!" she screamed, her voice barely rising above the gurgling chaos surrounding her. She wasn't giving up. Not now. Not ever. Desperation fueled her, and she kicked harder, her body desperate for any sense of direction. But the darkness swirled around her, whispering, pleading. "Join us!" It was the same voice, that familiar echo vibrating within her head, promising peace in the cold shadows. Lisa fought against the pull of the abyss, straining for a glimpse of light, any light. She grasped at the memory of Jake's face, his hesitant smile, innocence radiating from those big, brown eyes. "I want to let you take him." The proclamation surged through her, igniting the fire of resistance within her heart. As her limbs began to tire, something flickered in the deep, a mere glimmer, a point of luminescence. She blinked, squinting through the murkiness, heart pounding with hope. It was small, fragile like a candle in a storm, drawing her forward. Then it hit her. It was the creature. It thrummed with an indescribable energy, like a heartbeat beneath the water, pulling her closer with an unholy magnetism. Lisa's pulse raced as she caught a glimpse of an elongated hand, cold and skeletal, reaching out from the darkness. It was claw-like, fingers glistening with an oily sheen that reflected no light, hungry and relentless. "Jake!" She screamed again, forcing her body to swim against the current. The shadows clung like 100 unseen hands, clawing at her skin, tugging her down. Every muscle ached. Her vision blurred, but that flickering light stayed just out of grasp. And then, she felt it, a hand. Warm and reassuring, grasping hers. The breath caught in her throat as she instinctively tightened her hold. "Mom!" Jake's voice cut through the fear like a knife. "Jake! I'm here. I've got you." She pulled him close. Together, they fought against the tide, that stalwart anchor beneath the surface, pure love. The darkness howled in a frenzy, angry at this violation, twisting and writhing as it tried to tear them apart. But Lisa felt something shift within her. The shadows screamed in rage, they were losing their grip. As if tethered by a silent pact, Lisa and Jake surged upwards. Their breaths mingled with the cold desperation of the water, igniting a desperate yearning for air. Each stroke felt like a battle against a tide of despair. Then the ominous laughter echoed again, flowing from the very depths of the lake. "You think you can escape? The darkness will always claim what it desires." Chaos erupted. Shapes darted past, shadows of spectral forms swimming alongside the beast, writhing with a malevolent energy that dressed the watery walls in terror. Lisa's heart skipped violently. She could practically feel their ghastly eyes fixated on her and Jake, measuring their struggle, enjoying every moment of despair. Finally, they broke the surface, gasping for breath as the moonlit sky opened wide above them, shimmering with ethereal light. But the victory was short-lived. Caught off guard, she felt the cold, slickness of something brushing against her leg. She shot down, hand moving to grasp Jake's, but her instinct screamed. In that moment, the river had become an altar of horrors, and whatever lurked beneath was ready to reclaim its prey. "Hold on!" she cried, yanking Jake closer, clenching her jaw as she tensed against the pressure. She could feel the anger and desperation of the shadows below, thrashing with undeniable ferocity. They wouldn't just let go. With one last surge of strength, she kicked towards the shore, but the darkness surged higher, claiming its final stand. "Mom, look!" Jake gasped, pointing. Lisa turned, eyes widening at the dark image rising just below the surface, an even larger figure, coiling like a serpent, longer and more menacing than before. Its eyes gleamed a haunting red against the obsidian depths, locked onto them with a hunger that promised annihilation. And then it lunged. Were they fast enough? Would they ever know escape? In that moment, the darkness erupted, and hope was extinguished beneath the crushing weight of terror. What awaited them now in the depths, and would it finally consume them whole? The impact of the creature's lunge sent a violent wave crashing over Lisa and Jake, tossing them back beneath the suffocating water. Panic seeped into every fiber of Lisa's being as the shadows wrapped tighter around them, an icy grip pulling them deeper into the darkness. "Jake! Hold on!" She strained to keep her voice steady, though it trembled with desperation. The coiling shadow was monstrous, a sprawling mass of scales glistening like wet stone under a shroud of midnight. She could feel its presence, the electric charge of its malice radiating through the water, paralyzing her with fear. Jake clutched her tight, eyes wide, beads of water glistening on his lashes. She couldn't risk losing him. Relying on gut instinct, she kicked furiously, feeling as though every movement pulled her into the grasp of that lurking terror. But the creature had a will of its own. It surged forward, powerfully sweeping through the water like a dark storm. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest, a dreadful rhythm of impending doom. With a sudden sweep, it struck the spot where they had just been, sending a chilling wave that threatened to consume everything in its path. "Swim! Now!" Lisa gasped, pulling Jake with her. There was no time to hesitate. Every second counted, as the shadows thrummed with sinister anticipation. The echoes of laughter crept back into her mind, overwhelming her with dread. It was laughing at them, she could feel the mocking presence closing in. As she fought her way to the surface, a different type of darkness called her from below. It beckoned with haunting memories, whispering lies of safety and comfort. "Join us." The voice was softer this time, almost soothing, promising a kind of release. But Lisa dared not listen, she wrenched her mind away from it, willing herself to endure. They broke the surface once more, gasping for precious air. Light bathed their faces, but hope was a fragile thing, thin as a wisp of smoke. So close to freedom, yet she felt it, the insidious presence behind them, coiling around their legs. The lake was fierce, alive with resentment. "Mom!" Jake's voice trembled, the fear palpable. "Look out!" Lisa barely turned when she saw it, massive tendrils shooting from the water, slimy and grotesque, reaching for them with a terrifying swiftness. She braced for impact, her mind racing. If they were to escape, they had to face this. With a primal scream, Lisa dove once more, dragging Jake under the fray. The murky water swallowed them whole, the creature's dark silhouette whirling above, weaving a deadly net in frenzy. Lisa kicked hard, adrenaline coursing, desperate for any angle, any escape route. Suddenly, a glimmer caught her eye, another flicker of light below. Not the tormented glow of the creature, but something warmer, something inviting. It pulled at her heart, a chance for salvation. "Jake, follow me!" Lisa shouted, pushing through the gloom. Together they veered toward the beacon, fighting against pull of the shadows reaching for them like silent screams. But the moment they neared the light, it splintered into 1,000 new horrors, the faces of those who had come before them, lost forever to the lake's abyss. Their eyes bulged with terror, mouths opening in silent cries. Help us, join us!" The voices merged into one, a cacophony weaving through Lisa's mind, driving her to the brink of madness. "Live!" Lisa roared inside, shaking her head as wave after wave of the sorrowful cries crashed against her psyche. "We cannot succumb." The shadows writhed in outrage, the creature's rage apparent as it lunged for them. With Jake gripped in her arms, Lisa surged towards that flicker, clinging to survival as the depths seemed to boil around them. What if they could make it? What if the light was their salvation? The darkness coiled viciously, desperation feeding its strength as it leaned in closer. Teeth glimmered, sharp and ready, hovering just behind. Suddenly, a violent explosion of energy erupted. It was as if the waters themselves revolted, bubbling and churning in rebellion. But in that chaos, Lisa realized the truth: the light could either free them or lead them to an even darker fate. And then they dove into the unknown. Would they emerge to safety, or would the lake finally claim them in its depths? The pressure of the water pushed at Lisa's chest as they descended. The pulsating glow from below enveloped them in a warm, inviting light, contrasting sharply with the clutches of darkness that trailed relentlessly. Lisa felt time distort, each second pulling out like a stretched elastic band, as her lungs screamed for air. "Mom!" Jake's voice bubbled, muffled and strained as the chilling waters reasserted their grip. The light beckoned like the last glimmers of hope, yet the chilling whispers echoed again, tugging at Lisa's mind. "Help us!" It crawled into her thoughts, threatening to unravel her resolve. She gritted her teeth, focusing solely on Jake's presence, anchoring her in reality. "We will not give in," she vowed, her voice a silent mantra amid the chaos around them. Suddenly, the creature above roared a sound that reverberated through the water, vibrating in her bones, gnawing at her sanity. A dark shadow fell over them, blurring the inviting light. Terror washed over her, an icy wave crashing down upon them as they sank deeper. The creature's silhouette transformed, monstrous, undulating, shifting like shifting sand in a relentless storm. With one last surge, they broke through to the light, gasping in cool air. Jagged rocks and twisted roots lined the shores of an unfamiliar bank, slick with moisture, contrasting sharply with the familiar feel of the lake's cold embrace. The tranquil surface betrayed nothing of the horrors lurking underneath. But the sense of safety quickly vanished, the laughter echoed once more, a sound like brittle glass shattering in her eardrums. "Jake!" she shouted frantically, as she searched for him. The sheer dread consumed her as she scanned their surroundings. The boy had been at her side, where could he have vanished? Then she saw him, stranded on the rocks, flailing. A tendril loomed up from the water, coiling around his ankle with slimy precision. Lisa's heart plummeted. Time felt as if it had frozen in place, the world narrowed down to that one horrifying moment. "Hold on, Jake." She lunged toward him, adrenaline coursing through her veins like fire. The complexity of the shadows swirled behind her, a malevolent force rising with predatory intent. She had to reach him before a crushing grip seized her wrist, pulling her back. The creature was there again, its cold breath heavy in the air. Lisa twisted, her body straining against the force as tendrils lashed out, sharp and unforgiving. "Mom! Help!" Jake cried, panic engulfing him, eyes wide with terror. "No!" Lisa screamed, fighting against the monster's grip. She knew she had to act fast. The desperation fueled her resolve, a mother's love drew on all her strength. She swung her other arm, breaking free momentarily, pushing away the vile appendages. "Jake, I'm coming!" She darted, heart hammering, driven by sheer panic. The creature thrashed behind her, releasing a howling roar that echoed across the tranquil lake. Shadows clawed at her heels, desperate to pull her back into the depths. With one last burst of energy, she lunged, arms outstretched towards Jake. Their fingers brushed, warmth radiating through the frigid air, lifting hope. As she wrapped her hand around his wrist, a jolt of icy clarity coursed through her. Danger was tangible, and the darkness fought harder. But in that very moment, the splashing water erupted around them, and the laughing chorus rose anew, twisting through the air. Shadows bore down on them with insatiable hunger, laughing louder as they surfaced. "Stick together." Lisa felt the frailty of her own words, knowing the stakes. The water buzzed as the creature reeled back, gathering its strength for one final strike. But then, from above, something silvery soared across the sky, cutting through the haze of chaos. It illuminated the entire lake, birthing a shroud of brightness, casting aside the clinging shadows. Was it rescue? Or another sinister trick meant to ensnare them? As Lisa shielded her eyes from the blinding light, uncertainty gripped her. The moment stretched, anticipation and dread woven together in a suffocating embrace. What loomed behind that brilliance? Would it save them or pull them into an abyss worse than the one they were already drowning in? In the blinding light, everything felt surreal. The shadows recoiled, silent, as if terrified of the force that came crashing through the darkness. Lisa shielded her eyes, unable to fully comprehend what emerged. Shapes began to detach from the brilliance, enticing her, the air humming with a vibrancy she hadn't felt in what seemed like forever. "Mom!" Jake's frantic voice pulled her back. She focused, and in that moment, a golden silhouette stepped forward, a figure clad in sparkling white, radiating warmth. It moved with purpose, cut through the shadows as if they were nothing but smoke. "A ranger. Come on. Swim." The ranger's voice boomed across the water, assuring and firm. In that deep, reassuring tone, Lisa felt the tether of hope tighten around her heart. The silhouettes behind the ranger transformed into a handful of fellow townsfolk, faces she recognized, determined and alive. Together, they formed a human chain, reaching out to her and Jake, illuminating the path to salvation. With newfound strength, Lisa pulled Jake toward the shore. "We can make it. Just keep swimming." Her voice spilled over with an urgency fueled by love and fear. They kicked together, battling against the cold, dark abyss that swirled around them, ever more menacing now that the figures of the familiar beckoned closer. The ranger grabbed Jake first, pulling him into safety just as tendrils surged forward, eager to reclaim their prize. "No! You can't have him!" Lisa screamed, adrenaline pumping through her. With one final push and a burst of raw courage, she dove deeper, reaching blindly through the murky water, feeling for Jake's hand to pull him back. But he was safe. He was safe. Just a few feet away. She glimpsed Jake's face, flushed with raw fear and exhilaration, and it ignited a fire in Lisa's heart. She turned back toward the riptide of their danger, determination flooding her system as she huffed through the water. She could still feel the shadows clawing at her, grasping to pull her under. With all her strength, she surged toward the shore, where her community awaited her. Hands reached out, racing to help her over the structures of dark water rising like monstrous arms desperate to drown her. Light enveloped her, the shadows finally breaking away, shrieking as they faded into whispers behind her. As she stumbled onto the shore, laughter rang out, a joyous fit mingled with disbelief. The warmth of familiarity grounded her. She turned to see Jake, wrapped in the ranger's arms, his wide eyes searching for her. "Mom!" he cried, the relief spilling over in his voice, and she pulled him into her embrace, tears of gratitude streaming down as they shared that fragile moment of safety. They huddled together, enveloped in warmth and light, but the faces of those lost the souls forever entangled under the lake's sinister grip lingered in their minds. The ranger knelt beside them, voice steady. "It's over now. You're safe." But Lisa felt the weight of those haunting eyes, whispering from the depths. "What about them?" she murmured, glancing backward toward the water where darkness still threatened to devour all. "We honor them by living," the ranger replied softly. "We fight against what binds them, and through our remembrance, we keep them alive in spirit." As they turned away from the lake, Lisa felt the weight shift. It didn't magically erase the tragedies, but she had her son beside her, and for now, they had survived. The community was there, supporting them, and that sense of togetherness was enough to fend off the remnants of fear. The echoes of laughter grew louder as they walked toward the warm glow of the bonfire, shadows shrinking behind them. The lake was a place of mysteries and darkness, but they chose to carry the light forward to dispel the fear rooted deep and let their survival illuminate the way for those still lost. "Let us go home, Jake," she whispered, hand clasped tightly in his. The warmth of the fire flickered ahead, bursting like a flower blooming in the darkest night, a testament to their survival. As the stars sparkled above, twinkling with forgotten whispers, Lisa knew they would always carry a piece of the lake with them, but deep down, they understood one truth: together, they deface any darkness head-on. And once more, darkness would fail against the shimmering light of love and resilience. If you've made it this far, you need to subscribe now. You can't miss the next exclusive stories waiting to unfold. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread the word. Flood the comments section with your thoughts. I want to hear all your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Show your support for the channel and let us keep the adventure alive together.